You've manifested yourself into a human I can depend on to bring me happy.
Welcome aboard! This is a Captain's Log, broadcast television's only Star Trek talk show. I'm Bryan Kreutz.
I'm Lili Fox-Lim. If I were to say something along the lines of a classic Spock line, as in, if I may be so bold, it was a mistake not to consider Sean Kenney as Pike once again in Star Trek Discovery for those flashback scenes.
I would completely concur, Lily. In the Star Trek Discovery episode, Through the Valley of Shadows, Captain Pike has shown a horrifying vision of his future through the time crystal, revealing his face and body being horrifically scarred and crippled by radiation during a training exercise.
Ooh, this was Anson Mount in the chair that Sean Kenney's Pike once donned. And due to time crystals, this emanated from the Boreth Monastery, a Klingon monastery dedicated to Kalish, the unforgettable.
I love it how you say Kalish. Now, also loved how Discovery's writers included Kalis ties to this monastery, right? But yes, Pike's flashback was more than an instant. It was a total story tie-in to Pike's accident with Delta Rays and saving cadets.
Ooh, a touching scene mentioned in Sean Kenney's Menagerie episode about why he was disfigured. Yeah. Now, we do understand budget constraints and the fact Anson Mount is already there in Canada, but it's tricky as a tricky not to at least assume flying out Sean Kenney from the western half of the U.S. to Toronto for an assist in fan service would make an amazing role reprisal. Still, we get to continue our interview with Sean Kenney himself today.
Yes, we do. Now, last week we were kind of in the middle of talking to Sean Kenney about not knowing Gene Roddenberry and being asked to come in and meet him. Plus, we talked about doing an audition, Lucille Ball, Tom Selleck, and much more.
Yes. So be sure to check out that first part of our interview with Sean Kenney, who played Captain Pike disfigured in the chair from Menagerie, helmsman Mr. DePaul in Arena, and A Taste of Armageddon. And later this week, BK and I will continue our interview with him.
Yes, can't wait. It's going to be a great interview. Now, speaking of Star Trek's Captain Pike with Anson Mount, our news this week is surrounding Star Trek Strange New Worlds. But before we get started, I want to show fans this really cool picture, if they haven't already seen it, of Anson Mount with Sean Kenney posing together. These are two Pike legends. And they've met. I'm sure they have great respect for each other surrounding this 60-plus-year-old role of Captain Pike.
Absolutely, and this is a role that outdates Kirk.
What?
Being that the 1964 The Cage pilot was filmed 62 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Now to the news. It really kind of sucks getting a 2-year break after a huge season 2 cliffhanger from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but that's what happens when there's a writer's strike and an actor's strike.
No doubt about it. We're so glad that all the actors and writers are back here in LA and up in Canada. Now, season 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds has already wrapped. Now, we get to see its premiere on Paramount Plus. Yes, we got to say it together. And the second half of 2025, we'll have that premiere on Paramount Plus. Now, the news is that season 4 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds is set for spring 2025. That's right around now, I believe, right? Yeah. Anson Mount has thanked the fans for their patience.
Okay, as he should.
Yes.
We would like to show you a teaser clip for season 3 of Strange New Worlds.
Check it out.
Even though this was released back in October 2024 at New York Comic Con, this 3-minute clip features a revealing scene for the upcoming season 3 coming soon to Paramount Plus. Have a look.
Captain, shields at 50%. Captain. Orders, Captain.
Uhura, repeat April's last order.
Retreat and rendezvous with the fleet, sir. He gave coordinates.
But he didn't say immediately. All right, who's got ideas?
Diversionary tactics.
We're too boxed in.
Vent the nacelles, create a cloud.
We need to be able to see.
Jam their comms so they can't coordinate attacks.
That's it. That's the one.
Need go and use light for ship-to-ship messaging.
I'm modulating the deflector array to emit a spectrum. Should confuse them for a bit.
All right, now how do we beam our people back to Enterprise?
Scans indicate the Gorn ships are transport resistant.
Even if we get past the shields, we need authorization codes.
No time to hack codes.
Retreat and rescue. It's the best of a bunch of bad options.
So how do we track this specific ship across light years of space?
Wellkite, a rare element that contains subspace gauge bosons. If we modified a homing beacon,
The Gorn would see a beacon coming from a mile away.
Not if it's a torpedo. We tag him with a dud. The Gorn won't know what we're up to. Shields at 30%.
for this to succeed, we still need to penetrate the Gorn's defensive systems.
We've been hitting them with everything we've got. It doesn't do much. Energy shields work on harmonics. If we find the right frequency.
We can ram the ship.
Indeed. When our shields make contact with theirs, they will create a destructive interference pattern and momentarily interrupt both frequencies.
With our shields down, we'd be sitting ducks.
We'd only have one shot.
That's all we need. Mitchell, bring us around, head to head with the destroyer. Time to play a game of chicken.
All decks, prepare for impact.
Full impulse on your orders, Captain.
Inertial dampeners to maximum. Everybody hold on to something. Una, let's hit it. Fire torpedoes. Helm, warp us out of here.
On it.
Hang in there, guys.
Well, Lily, you and I are certainly due for a tractor beam me segment.
are we?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we get to keep your winning ways like the St. Louis Cardinals and Los Angeles Dodgers style winning ways, so let's get going.
A baseball reference from BK, not a surprise.
Yes.
Perhaps Harper or Joanna will be hailing the bridge to route the incoming subspace message to us, and it will involve Michael Pillar's love for baseball,
That's right.
or have a tractor beam me reference to winners like me.
You're very sure of yourself.
Yeah, but I never lose.
Well, sure of yourself for good reason. Yes.
Channel is already open for broadcast.
Warping in here to a halt to cut to the chase. Ambassador and Commander. There were typically two stunt doubles that played as Jadzia Dax's fully decked out doubles, our upcoming guest this season, J. Suzanne Ramp and Karen Cece Colvett on DS9. Can you tell me which weapon was used the most by Jadzia Dax throughout the 6 seasons of DS9?
Wow, surely you're not asking me another gobbledygook trickster trekker way into a phaser question, because that would be a type 2 phaser, obviously.
Well, there's more to this, Lily. At least my non-betazoid senses are telling me, because that's what's on Harper's face.
All right.
Hastily, especially without thinking about it, you're jumping to the phaser gun here, Lily.
Oh, we're going to a first name basis now. Is that how it is?
Don't get defensive, Commander. We share the same rank. The ambassador and 2 captains, all played by producers on this talk show, asked me to step in and stun you with my good looks, charm, and daring questions. So, besides the phaser of any type, what weapon did Jadzia wield and whip around to win in warfare the most?
The answer is a batleth. She used it frequently, including in a holosuite against Tom Morga's stunting for Koloth, the Klingon, way back in season 2 first, and of course was married to Worf later. Boom. Game, set, match, Harper. Computer, channel off.
Harper Dudde, signing off. Peace and long life.
There is more than meets the eye. As my initial impression, you always win this. My initial impression of Dax wielding the batleth in Deep Space Nine's 2nd season episode Blood Oath. This showed us Dax versus Koloth training in a holosuite. Now, this was of course emphasized by our exclusive footage found only here on a Captain's Log, thanks to Tom Morga, which one-on-one wielded the batleth, doubling Koloth versus Cece, doubling Dax on the Paramount soundstage.
Ooh, yes, that was season 2 Deep Space Nine. Dax picks up the Kalis batleth in the Sword of Kalis, plus many other episodes, I would say Too many to even count.
Too many.
And I would count Esri Dax in the 7th season Deep Space Nine episode Penumbra when she sees the Botleth given to Jadzia by Worf and begins to reminisce about Jadzia's relationship and marriage to Worf.
Yes, very cool. There's a Trekkie and then there's a deep Trekkie level know-it-all best Trekkie, and that is Lili Fox-Lim. We're back in the moment with Sean Kenney here on A Captain's Log.
A Captain's Log with special guest Sean Kenney returns in a moment.
Captain Pike? Captain? You'll remember these gentlemen. They wanted to visit you. 2 flashes mean no. I thought you might make an exception for them.
Welcome back to A Captain's Log. Lily and I have many more questions in a moment as we continue our interview with Sean Kenney.
Ooh, Sean Kenney, yes. Brian and I are both currently reading Sean Kenney's memoir, which details an exciting life in Hollywood as a noted actor in the 1960s and 70s, beginning with a dual starring role as Captain Pike and Lieutenant DePaul in Star Trek: The Original Series.
Oh, absolutely.
This book... Yes, this very book is titled Captain Pike Found Alive.
Absolutely. And after Sean signed with his manager, he met Gene Roddenberry, who was researching for an actor to play an important role in Star Trek: The Original Series. Now, that was in the 2-part episode, The Menagerie. Now, Mr. Roddenberry gave the role of Captain Pike to Sean, and this character, as well as the episode, is still considered one of the most popular episodes of Star Trek: The Original Series. But it launched Sean as a professional film actor, and he returned to Star Trek, as Lily just alluded to, as Lieutenant DePaul, the Enterprise's helmsman. Pretty impressive, right? Playing another role. But Sean continued his acting career in many television shows, such as the famous Police Story, also Get Smart, Doctor's Hospital, and Divorce Court, just to name a few. Now, during this time, he was hired by R.J. Reynolds to appear in a series of cigarette ads. Now, Sean became the original Winston Man, and his billboard became the largest ad campaign in R.J. Reynolds' history.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, I believe I have the next question for Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What was it like working in the chair as Pike and working with Leonard Nimoy?
Leonard was so good. Leonard was method actor, and I'm not a method actor. I do another thing, which is they all turned from method into the Meisner method after a few years of being with method actors. But they would say to me, they'd say, oh, Leonard came up to me one time, and I'm in the chair like this, and all of a sudden I can look up and see him. I could turn my head and say, "How you doing, Leonard?" He goes like this with his arms behind his back. "Very well. I hope you're well." He said, "Oh, I'm well." I said, I'm well. And I said, I went like this. I said, your mom and my mom are friends because I come from Mattapan, where you come from in Boston. He looks at me like this and he goes, "Very interesting," and keeps walking. Because method acting, you can't break your character. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, wow. And he stayed that way on most of the set. He didn't break from being Spock. When he did, he'd crack up and really laugh, but it was momentary. And he'd go back to that very logical, very, what I'm saying. But Leonard was a great guy.
Nice. Now, Sean, how did you first learn about the role you're set to play as the disfigured Captain Pike? It sounds like you were discovered, and were you brought in to meet with casting director Joe D'Agusta and Roddenberry, or was this something that you were auditioning for?
Yeah, and Bernie Losi was the other guy. It was Joe D'Agusta. And they said, well, you're going to go in and you're going to meet Gene Roddenberry. At that time, I of course realized what Mitzi had told me. Oh, I said, okay, is there anything I have to read? No, just, oh, they're calling you right now. Well, I stood up, went in and sat down, and all of a sudden Gene Roddenberry came in. Now his office was not this big luxurious office. It was a nice very good artist. And he walked around me and he said, he just put his hand out. Good to meet you, Sean. And he had a picture in his hand. And the picture was of Jeffrey Hunter. And he just walked up to me and he put the picture up next to my face and he goes, it's a match. And he put the picture down. So then he says to me, he says, I got a few questions to ask you. Yes, sir. And he knew I was ex-military as he was. And so, when you say anything that they want you to do, you say, yes, sir, yes, sir. So he said, are you allergic to this? And do you have any kind of claustrophobic fears? Because what we're going to do is we're going to put this mask on you. We're going to put a plaster Paris mask on you. And that's going to be, you'll only have little nostril things sticking out of your nose. And we're going to need to do that for a couple hours. Are you paranoid? Are you, and I said, oh, no. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. And like that. And so you had to do that. I mean, it's like every actor knows that you're going to blow the part if you say, no, I can't do that. If you can't, you run out and learn how to do it. Do you ride horses? I had to do that one time. And I knew how to ride horses anyway. So it's really crazy. But he did say that. And then all of a sudden, he just said, I want you to know that this is a very, very important part. And he did say to me, he said, there's going to be a lot of emotions, but you can't show much because the way we're going to have your face down and tight, it has to come through the eyes. And they had to take my eyes down like this, And I said, okay. So one day, because I needed to cry in one of the scenes, they asked me, and my dad had been killed when I was 8 years old. And he was a Boston cop, and so that replay in my head. Finally, at home, coming home from school, my mother telling me what happened. Actors don't know that there's all that you put back out of your heart because it makes you sad. And all of a sudden, I started to cry, and they went, "Wow, you're crying?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I can cry." And sure enough, that was one of the best scenes, they told me, because they blow in your eye with a little tube. It's got menthol in it. They just go, and all of a sudden you start crying. So I was able to do that.
Wow. Sean, at the hand of Fred Phillips applying makeup to your face, this is easily the most extensive makeup job early on in the Star Trek The Original Series order for you to portray the disfigured and paralyzed Captain Pike in the two-part The Menagerie on Star Trek The Original Series. Can you talk about this experience and the lighting for screen tests?
Here's a funny story about the scar that a lot of people didn't know what happened. They had a scar on me on the screen test. They put it on, and it was all drawn in, like this. And all of a sudden, they put on 5K lights, which are pretty hot lights. Today, they have digital lights, so it's not that heat light. So the heat was on my face, so hot. All of a sudden, my face starts to drip. And all the scar starts, it's a different color. Has to go like this down onto my neck. And stop, cut. And the guy comes home and he says, "Look, this is the screen test they're saying." And so one of the young guy that's working with the makeup man, he says, "Oh, I got an idea." And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, he puts his leg up on the table, on a small table, and he draws the scar with a Sharpie to imitate this thing on my face. He cuts it out of his jeans, and he comes over, puts spirit gum on it, and he goes like this. He says, "How about this, Jimmy? Is this okay?" "God, man, you just saved our ass." He said, "That will work. Oh. And that's why I told you they put the scar on the wrong side on the last day. So this is Star Trek, man. And it was just amazing how they put it on, and it filmed amazing. I mean, because it had an edge on it, which with scab and scars sometimes have a scab. The other one was just drawn on. So that's the story of the scar.
Seeing this in HD now and Blu-ray, I can see the jeans cut out is evident on your face. It's crazy.
It is a very stressful thing for a crew, particularly to do camera work on a series in cinematography by Gerald Perry Finnerman.
Yes, this is no small feat, playing a disfigured Pike as you're still acting, particularly with your eyes and this 23rd century chair moving about. But what type of direction did you receive from director Mark Daniels?
He says, Sean, bring your emotions up as much as you can. Because the best scene to me with Leonard and I was, and it's on that little, I have the Christmas ornament, and that soundbite is in the Christmas ornament. It's amazing. And there's 3 soundbites in there. And Leonard comes up in that one scene and says, Captain, I have it all planned. It's only 6 days away at maximum warp. And I have it well planned. And I go, beep, beep, no. Well, I had to show with the no, because I'm doing the beeping. I don't know if you know that. They had a little rod for me to hold on to, and it was closed. And every time I pulled it open, it beeped like this, right? Like this. And so I couldn't move my shoulders. I just had to have it like this under the chair and go like that. And that was, you're thinking it's coming from the machine. No, it's coming from my breaking the sound. Okay, so anyway, Leonard, that scene made me cry, because what he was so good when he said that. He knew he was going to be court-martialed. He knew he was going to, and he's taken over the ship. I mean, when you think about that episode, that was pretty amazing who wrote that, you know? And we all got into it, you know? Nobody, even Kirk got into it. You know, he knew that when he walks, and Malachi Throne was such a good actor. And Malachi was next to me. I met him in New Jersey one time. Wait a minute, you're Malachi, oh my God. You know, this is 30 years later, and he had white hair. And so Malachi in that scene was so good. I mean, he was a brilliant, you know, he worked up until maybe a month before he passed away in the theater on Olympic Boulevard. And he had a theater, and he was in that theater, and he was acting right up until he passed away.
Starbase 11 medical section shows you and your first scene as Pike. What do you remember about the first couple takes, and were you frustrated at all if Malachi, Throne, Shatner, Kelly, or Nimoy were doing multiple takes or bloopers, as I'm sure it's confining for you in this chair and makeup? Or essentially, what do you remember about the long taping day in particular, starting with the first scene to the last scene on your first day at Paramount filming the episode?
You're so excited. This is your first big job. And then I'm getting, you know, screen credit, you know. I got, you know, really good screen credit on that one. And I'm saying, wow, this is my first job, but I can't talk, you know. But what was really great is that they were so team makers, going together on stuff and everything. And Shatner knew where he was. And a psychologist told me one time, I was having a little cocktail with a guy one night. He says, you know, that show you were on? I said, yeah. He says, you don't know why it was so popular? And I said, no. He said, because it was endo, ecto, meso. I said, what does that mean? Well, you got an endo guy, and that's the doctor, and he's going, Jim, we need this. And then you got an ectomorphic one, and that's Spock. Really, sir? Well, I'll take care of that. And then you got the mesomorphic, which was Kirk. And then I said, oh, those three, they always work in a series. I said, well, point out. They said, look at, and he named 2 or 3 series. And I'm saying, there's ecto, endo, meso in all these shows, ecto, endo, meso. And I went, yeah. And then he pointed out the characters in those other 3 shows, ecto, endo, meso. And I'm going, who the heck would ever know that that's the way the writers caught on to that? And they'd always have those 3 characters in every show. You know, Gilligan's Island, all these other shows, you would see somebody that was this type, that type, and this type. Always work. Always work.
Endo, ecto, and mesomorphic. You articulate it so well with the trio of all 3, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
I love that. Sean, your official website for photography is bizphoto.com. But let's fast forward for a question. Now, you became a commercial photographer in the Los Angeles area. Also, tell us about this StarTrekActors.com website where viewers can get your photo and autographed book.
StarTrekActors.com was amazing that we got it. I didn't know it was available. I went on it. And then I said, wow, I'm going to put my book on there. And sure enough, we've been getting calls. I got people from Italy calling, and can you send the book over there? You know, I don't know if you know that, but Italy is really big into Star Trek. A lot of people don't know that. And they flew me over on Alitalia. This is about 4 years ago, 12-hour flight to a town called Riccione, which is up on the Adriatic. And they had me and my wife come in, and they had a whole stage set up like Star Trek, and they had the Gorn, and they had these people in costumes. And I am telling you, I love the Italians because they said, Mr. Kenney, we just so happy you're here, and we want you to see something. And all of a sudden, they started to show my episode. They had Kirk speaking Italian, but they had the whole mouth changed. It wasn't subtitled or anything. And so here's Captain Kirk speaking Italian and Spock doing Italian. The mouth is working. And I'm going, oh, it's a brand new, you know, we got it down now. We know. And, you know, I thought about the Italians, you know. And you know what's so cool about the Italians when I was there? They didn't have their cell phones up on their face or in their pockets. They just look at you and want to talk to you. They love conversation. The Italians are so, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. And they just like the whole Star Trek thing. But the Gorn on stage was good, and they hit him with stuff and everything. That's Riccione. It's Riccionie, Riccione. And it's on the Adriatic, but it's a wealthy town. So most of these people are very well off. And they told me not to advertise it too much because they don't like the tourists coming too much. But it's a great place, and they love Star Trek. So I just had to tell you that about the show.
A Captain's Log with special guest Sean Kenney returns in a moment.
Welcome back to the Captain's Log. Sean Kenney is with Lili and I here. Sean, you know it's really been a great time having you here on a Captain's Log. Lili and I enjoyed our time with you, but I do have one more question, one more item for you. You're originally from Boston. You know, I'm originally from St. Louis, but you've also done other films and even a short in St. Louis. Can you talk about this?
I thought I would stay out of acting, you know, and do the photography. And about 3 years ago, a guy called me, director, and he said, I want you to do 2 films for me. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I know your acting ability, and I want you to come. So I did one called The Assassin's Apprentice. It's coming out, and it's going to be in theaters. And the second one is Staycation.
From one icon to another, Sean Kenney is certainly that. Be sure to get his book, Captain Pike Found Alive, signed for you by Sean himself, at the website www.captainpikefoundalive.com.
Great read, it really is.
It is.
Bye for now.
I'm glad you've manifested yourself into a human I can depend on to bring me happy. Ooh. Thank you.